When Pope Leo XIV requested Karoline Leavitt, the rising young star of American politics, to remove the glittering cross from around her neck during their first encounter at the Vatican, the world didn't just notice. It was taken aback. In a grand hall teeming with journalists, cameras, advisors, and Vatican dignitaries, Leavitt entered exuding confidence. She bowed respectfully, her bright smile and composed tone capturing the gravity of the occasion. Yet, the Pope remained unmoved. He stood still, his gaze steady, his hand resting gently on the simple wooden cross placed on the altar behind him. "Take it off," he said, his tone soft but authoritative, echoing like a verdict through the chamber. A heavy silence engulfed the space. No reactions from the press, no motion from aides, no sign from the cardinals. All eyes shifted to Leavitt, an emblem of influence and optimism, now standing between two realms, the spectacle of politics and the depth of belief. What was meant to symbolize unity instead delivered a powerful, wordless message. Faith doesn't need glitter, it needs humility. Holiness doesn't glow, it bows. Before we go deeper, let us know where you're watching from, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss future stories. St. Peter's Square was alive with anticipation. Morning light streamed through the great dome, casting a golden hue over a crowd of reporters and pilgrims. The ringing of bells blended with murmurs and the clicks of cameras. Inside the Apostolic Palace, the marble halls shone under the flicker of candlelight leading to the audience chamber, which had been precisely arranged. Chairs were placed in order, cameras positioned, and Vatican officials in red robes stood with calm intensity. Cardinal Lorenzo Bianchi nervously adjusted his watch strap. Concerned about the Pope's unusual decision, he whispered to an aide, "He's different. Asking her to remove the cross, it will stir controversy." Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, the first American to be elected pope, stood alone in the Sistine Chapel just before the audience. His modest black cassock sharply contrasted with the ornate ceiling above. He had once served as a priest in remote Peruvian villages, where poverty and sorrow had shaped his perspective. A vivid memory returned. A grieving widow had handed him a coarse wooden cross. "It's not beautiful," she had said, "but it carries my pain and hope." That same wooden cross now rested on the altar in the audience hall, and had since become the symbol of his mission. For him, faith wasn't about grandeur, it was about endurance. When he became pope, he declined golden robes and luxurious chambers, preferring simplicity. For Pope Leo XIV, the cross was not a political emblem, it was a call to serve. Meanwhile, aboard a private jet soaring over the Mediterranean, Karoline Leavitt reviewed a meticulously drafted speech with her team. At only 27, she had risen from a small-town girl in New Hampshire to White House press secretary under the Trump administration, known for advocating strict immigration policies. The dazzling cross around her neck, gifted by a major donor, was more than religious jewelry. It had become her signature, a badge of faith, strength, and political identity. It appeared on magazine covers, earned applause during speeches, and reinforced her public image. "This meeting will define me," she told her top advisor, Sarah Mitchell, who stared pensively out the window. "This pope is unpredictable," Mitchell warned. "He's been openly critical of our stances." Leavitt brushed it off, tapping her script. "I'm not going to debate. I'm here to make an impression." Back at the Vatican, anticipation grew. Journalists from CNN to Reuters exchanged whispers about the unexpected visit. The headline practically wrote itself. "Rising political star meets American Pope." Cardinal Bianchi stood by the altar, quietly praying the Pope's actions would be understood beyond the lens of media hype. He knew this wasn't about publicity, it was about belief. Leavitt, dressed in a sleek blue gown, readied herself to enter. She envisioned a handshake with the Pope gracing global front pages, cementing her as a force to watch. But Pope Leo XIV, still beside the wooden cross, had a different purpose in mind. He wasn't preparing for a political handshake. He was preparing for transformation. The audience chamber doors opened. The echo of Leavitt's heels on the marble floor resembled a ceremonial drumbeat introducing a pivotal moment. Candlelight danced on the golden cross at her neck, an ornate piece encrusted with jewels, casting vibrant reflections. Photographers, lined behind velvet ropes, raised their lenses. Vatican officials stood still, observing with subtle wariness. Sarah Mitchell clutched her notepad, masking growing tension. Cardinal Bianchi's brow slightly creased, sensing an impending shift. Pope Leo XIV remained motionless by the altar, his fingers grazing the wooden cross. His understated attire underscored his humility amidst the grand setting. Leavitt approached with poise, her smile polished like a seasoned performer's. She stopped a few steps short, bowed slightly, and spoke clearly. "Holy Father, I bring greetings from the American people and my deepest respect." A sudden stillness gripped the air. The Pope lifted his gaze. It felt penetrating, as if he could see past the surface. He didn't offer a handshake. He didn't respond with a smile. He simply gestured to the radiant cross on her chest. "Take it off," he said. The words were soft, yet unyielding. The entire chamber froze. Camera shutters ceased. A pen fell, clattering sharply against the floor. Sarah Mitchell gasped. Cardinal Bianchi shook his head as though to say, "You were warned." Leavitt stood still, her expression stiffening, her smile fading into confusion. The cross, long a symbol of her faith and persona, was now the object of scrutiny. Pride swelled, but so did a strange intrigue. "Holy Father," she said, her voice wavering but still composed. "I'm not sure I understand." The Pope stepped forward, lifting the rough cross from the altar. Its worn texture caught the dim glow. "The cross is not for display," he spoke, his words slow and ancient in rhythm. "It is meant to carry pain, to remind us of sacrifice. What you wear speaks of the world, not of God." The words gently broke through Leavitt's confidence. Reporters murmured. Phones lit up. "Pope challenges American politician," headlines buzzed online. Her cheeks flushed. She wanted to push back, to defend her stance, but the Pope's expression wasn't condemning. It was inviting. She turned to Sarah Mitchell, who shook her head subtly. "Don't do it." But a memory returned. Her grandfather's voice in a New Hampshire church. "Faith isn't for show. It's what you live by." Those words echoed, linking past to present. Her hand rose slowly, touching the sparkling cross. The cool metal pressed against her skin. Everyone held their breath. Cameras zoomed in. Bianchi looked on, surprised. Sarah Mitchell tensed, bracing for backlash. Then, Leavitt did the unexpected. She unclasped the cross and placed it gently on the altar. The metallic click echoed like a proclamation. She met the Pope's gaze, now steady and clear. "I'm ready," she said. Pope Leo XIV nodded, not in approval, but recognition. "You've taken the first step," he said. "Now let us take the next." He led her to the altar, to the humble wooden cross. "Kneel," he instructed, voice calm but resolute. Leavitt hesitated, the weight of cameras and watching eyes pressing in. But the wooden cross, rough and simple, held something deeper. It didn't represent a platform or persona. It held a truth she hadn't yet grasped. She knelt. Her gown touched the cold marble. The Pope knelt beside her, resting his hand on the cross. "This is the true cross," he whispered. "It needs no light to shine. It carries the light of sacrifice." The press, so used to spectacle, stood in silent awe. A Reuters reporter, scribbled furiously. Sarah Mitchell clutched her notebook, heart racing. Cardinal Bianche gave the faintest smile. Online, the story spread like fire. Leavitt kneels before Pope. Gold replaced with wood. But in that chamber, the moment wasn't about headlines. It belonged to just two people, a pope guided by purpose, and a young politician now facing a deeper calling. Letting go of the self to find true purpose. He rose and motioned for her to stand with him. Go out there, Karoline. Not with a glittering cross, but with this one in your heart. Liv stood silently, still holding onto the wooden cross. She felt something shift inside, as if an unseen door had been unlocked. The small chapel, bathed in the soft glow of candlelight and marked by the simple wooden cross, became a sacred sanctuary, where she was no longer the White House press secretary, but a person learning to bear her own cross. As the chapel's door slowly opened, bright light from the Vatican's marble hallway poured in, drawing Karoline Leavitt and Pope Leo XIV back into the reality of the audience chamber. Still clutching the wooden cross, Leavitt stepped forward, with a calm, composed expression, very different from the sharp confidence she had carried upon arrival. Pope Leo XIV walked beside her in his black cassock that swept the floor, his face serene like a man who had fulfilled a meaningful mission. The audience chamber, which had been silent during the earlier ritual, suddenly filled with a buzz of whispers and the clicking of cameras. Reporters scribbled frantically in their notebooks, their eyes darting between surprise and intrigue. Chief Advisor Sarah Mitchell stood quietly in a corner, lowering her notepad, her expression mixing confusion with admiration. Cardinal Lorenzo Bianche, positioned near the altar, gave a subtle nod, as though acknowledging that the moment had surpassed all expectations. Outside the Vatican, the world erupted in reaction. Social media lit up with thousands of posts spreading rapidly. One account declared, "Leavitt kneels before a wooden cross. Pope Leo XIV just redefined faith." Another, more critical, urged her to remove the cross, finding the gesture either bold or offensive. Opinions split sharply. Some labeled the Pope's act as arrogant, accusing him of humiliating an American political figure deliberately. However, as the video of the prayer ritual circulated, showing Leavitt and Pope Leo XIV kneeling before the wooden cross, the public's perspective began to shift. A post from a Catholic account shared widely read, "The cross isn't a piece of jewelry. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that faith is lived, not displayed." News organizations quickly seized on the story. CNN ran the headline, "American Pope Challenges American Politician, Cross or Fame." Meanwhile, the BBC offered a more measured take, describing the Vatican moment as one that might reshape global views on leadership. Emma Carter, a Reuters reporter who was present, penned an immediate analysis. Leavitt arrived full of ambition, but departed holding a wooden cross, an unexpected symbol. Her article rapidly circulated, quoted across social media and forums, igniting discussions about the true meaning of the cross in a world dominated by image and power. The reaction in the U.S. was complex. The Trump administration, known for its strict immigration policies, faced criticism from Catholic groups who had hoped Pope Leo XIV would advocate for immigrants. Some Trump supporters labeled the Pope's request for Leavitt to remove the sparkling cross and kneel before the wooden one as a political jab. Yet many Catholics saw a deeper lesson. A pastor from Chicago posted on social media, "Pope Leo XIV isn't opposing Leavitt. He's teaching her, and all of us, that the cross is about service, not status." The post earned thousands of likes, signaling a shift in public sentiment. Sarah Mitchell, Leavitt's advisor, stood silently in the audience chamber, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages from Washington's communications team. She understood. This moment could redefine Leavitt's career, or end it. "She shouldn't have knelt," Mitchell whispered to an aide, fearing the backlash from conservative voters. Yet as she glanced at Leavitt, who held the wooden cross with eyes no longer those of a politician concerned with image, but someone searching for meaning, Mitchell reluctantly began to realize this was not defeat. It was a fresh start. Cardinal Bianchi, still near the altar, felt a flicker of hope. He had worried Pope Leo XIV's gesture would be misunderstood. But now he saw the press not just documenting the event, but being drawn into it. A BBC reporter nearby commented to a colleague, "This isn't just news, it's a lesson." Cameras stayed focused on Leavitt and Pope Leo XIV, but the atmosphere had changed. From political tension to a solemn reverence, debates erupted on social media. One political commentator wrote, "Leavitt just weakened herself by kneeling before the Pope, not standing strong as a leader." Another responded, "She's not weaker, she's stronger because she dared to change." The video of the prayer showing Leavitt holding the wooden cross spread worldwide, from Rome to New York, Tokyo to São Paulo. Online forums flooded with opinions, ranging from criticism to praise. But all agreed this was an unforgettable moment. Leavitt stood beside Pope Leo XIV, the wooden cross the center of attention. She remained silent, but her eyes spoke volumes. A transformation was happening, not only within her, but in how the world perceived leadership and faith. Pope Leo XIV, with the calm of a man who had witnessed much suffering yet still held hope, looked around the room. "The world is watching," he said quietly to Leavitt. "But what matters is not what they see, but what you choose to live." The moment, captured by countless cameras, was not just news. It was a call to Leavitt and to everyone watching. From St. Peter's Square to distant street corners, the wooden cross, small yet powerful, had become a symbol of change, not only for a young politician but for a world seeking deeper meaning. As Karoline Leavitt and Pope Leo XIV left the chapel, the marble hallway's light surrounded them, pulling them back into the bustle of the Vatican. Leavitt, still gripping the wooden cross, stood tall, her eyes reflecting a new determination, different from the sharp confidence she had shown hours before. Pope Leo XIV walked beside her, his face peaceful like a man who had planted a seed, trusting it would grow. Though the audience chamber was still crowded with press and officials, the mood had shifted. It was no longer tense, but filled with quiet reverence. Cardinal Lorenzo Bianchi near the altar gave a small nod, his eyes shining with hope. Sarah Mitchell, despite concerns about media fallout, could not deny that Leavitt had changed, not weakened, but strengthened in a deeper way. The event sparked global reflection on leadership and faith. At a Nairobi university, students held a seminar discussing the wooden cross's lesson and how leadership might serve rather than dominate. In Manila, laypeople launched a Carry the Cross campaign, collecting donations for the poor inspired by Pope Leo XIV's gesture. An article in Italy's La Stampa remarked, "Pope Leo XIV, with a simple wooden cross, accomplished what international summits could not, bringing the world closer through humility." Online forums, from Reddit to Catholic Facebook groups, buzzed with questions. What defines true leadership? What does the cross mean in a world driven by ambition? Meanwhile, at the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV continued his mission undeterred by the media storm. During a prayer session in the chapel, he spoke of peace for Gaza and compassion for those suffering, reminding listeners that the cross calls us to love, not judge. His words, widely shared, reinforced his image as a pope who led the church and challenged the world to reconsider its values. An Italian journalist posted, "Pope Leo XIV needs no golden crown. The wooden cross is his true crown." Back in America, Leavitt faced intense pressure from her team. In a tense meeting in Washington, Sarah Mitchell warned her, The public is divided. Some call you a loser, others see you as a symbol of change. Sitting quietly, her fingers tracing the wooden cross, Leavitt said softly but firmly. I don't care about winning or losing. I want to do what's right. The Vatican event not only changed Leavitt, but inspired millions. A young woman in Mumbai wrote, I thought leadership meant strength, but Leavitt and Pope Leo XIV showed me it's about daring to kneel. Teacher in London used the prayer ritual video to teach humility. The wooden cross, small but potent, became a global symbol appearing in articles, sermons, and even street art. In Washington, late at night, Karoline Leavitt sat alone in her office, the desk lamp casting light on the wooden cross resting on her desk. Outside, city lights shimmered while the rain pattered softly against the window. The rough, scratched cross lay quietly, like a silent companion reminding her of the Vatican moment. Opening her notebook, her pen moved swiftly, capturing her thoughts. I once believed leadership was standing tall under the spotlight. Today I learned it's about the courage to kneel and let your heart be touched. The unadorned wooden cross had become a beacon, guiding her through waves of ambition and pressure. Thousands of miles away in the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV knelt in the chapel, light streaming through stained glass and casting colorful streaks on his cassock. Before a similar wooden cross, he prayed quietly for suffering refugees in Gaza and impoverished families he'd met in Peru. Lord, grant us strength to bear your cross, to love and serve, he whispered. His simple, profound prayer echoed the truth that the cross is not a symbol of power, but a path of compassion. Leavitt stopped writing, her gaze fixed on the wooden cross. She recalled her past speeches defending administration policies with the sparkling cross as a political emblem. Now, holding the scratched wooden cross, bearing the story of a Peruvian mother, she felt challenged to live differently, not for the spotlight, but for those without a voice. In Rome, the bells of St. Peter's Basilica rang through the night, a call to hope. Pope Leo XIV smiled gently, whispering, "The cross is not to be worn, but carried."